even in the remotest part of Nigeria where there are historical challenges, you are likely to find an OPay agent providing cash in, cash out services in those communities. So we have an historical 500,000 agents across Nigeria, one of the largest agent banking network in Africa.
Just for a moment, imagine this. It's 2023, and for some reason, Nigeria's Buhari-led government decided to suddenly redesign the Naira, and worst of all, also decided to ban the old notes, just 15 days before the most anticipated presidential elections of all time. Then came the Naira shortage. ATMs emptied out, cash became scarce, and people scrambled for alternatives. This caused chaos, and many people were frustrated, but this unexpected pandemonium became the rocket fuel that powered a Chinese-founded fintech startup into the hearts of billions. OPay. Nigerians rediscovered the power of digital payments. By April 2024, OPay already served 50 billion users, with 1 million merchants handling a jaw-dropping $12 billion in monthly transactions daily. Over 10 million users log in to transfer money, buy airtime, save, or even access loans right from their phone. Now valued at nearly $2.75 billion, up from $2 billion in 2021, these fintech powerhouses refused to crash even as global venture capital slowed down. OPay built one of Nigeria's largest mobile POS network, fast adapting to local challenges with precision and speed. At AfriwealthWise, we ignite the spirit of financial independence and entrepreneurship in Africa's future billionaires. Whether you're building wealth from the ground up or scaling up your existing ventures, we are here to guide you towards financial freedom. Nigerians have always wished for a world where they had very easy access to banks. A situation where they didn't have to deal with long queues, confusing paperwork, and most especially, terrible bank network. In 2013, a Chinese tech entrepreneur named Zhao Yahu started a small company in Nigeria called Paycom Nigeria Limited. At first, it was a modest mobile payment service with one simple dream: make sending and receiving money easy straight from a phone. At that time, smartphones and mobile internet were spreading fast, and there was a chance to help people who couldn't reach bank. Fast forward a few years to 2018, Paycom got a big boost when it rebranded and became OPay. Many Nigerians don't know this, but it is short for Opera Pay. Opera. That's because the creators of the popular browser Opera Mini, which was already very famous across Africa, stepped in to support it, and they helped it grow very fast. The bold launch of OPay in Nigeria came with a very genius plan: become a super app that offers everything Nigerians need. That simply meant that they didn't start with banking. Instead, they launched the services that everyone loves: ORide to hail motorbike rides, OFood for food delivery, OBus to book buses, and more. All at super low prices too. By making life easier and cheaper, OPay hooked millions of people into using the app every day. And with each ride or meal, people got familiar and comfortable with the OPay brand. It was a smart move. Then the perfect moment to switch to their real mission came in 2018. Digitalized finance. Once people already trusted the app, OPay introduced money transfers, savings, and more. And that was when things started to take off. In May 2019, OPay launched Points of Sale system. Think of this like a mini bank in every neighborhood. Everyday Nigerians, even those in small town, could act as an OPay agent to make deposits, withdrawals, and cash outs near your home. This tapped into a huge need because cash was often hard to find alongside ATMs that rarely dispensed money. Coupled with banks that were always full to the brim, always having network issues, OPay agents filled that gap everywhere. Within months, OPay had thousands of agents across Nigeria. In fact, by 2020, OPay processed around $3 billion every month and had a massive agent network operating like mini banks all across the country. At the same time, OPay scored huge backings from global investors. In 2019, they raised $50 million in one funding round. Not long after, another $120 million followed. Then in 2021, OPay hit unicorn status, valued at $2 billion. This was just after raising a whopping $400 million, led by SoftBank Vision 2 and others. Now, by April 2024, OPay had grown into something unheard of. 50 million users across Nigeria, 1 million merchants, and more than $12 billion in monthly transactions. That's like half of Nigeria knowing and trusting OPay to handle their everyday money. And remember, they did this without relying on big bank offices everywhere. They solved this problem through mobile apps and trusted agents on the streets. So how did OPay manage to grow this big? OPay refused to copy banks. Instead, they placed a very big bet on something completely different: agents, incentives, and more importantly, trust. Let's break it down. Think about banks for a second. With its fancy big buildings, the endless queues, and security men at the door. That's the Nigerian banking experience. But OPay looked at this and said, no, we don't need glass towers and long queues. We just need to be everywhere people already are. And that's how the POS boom came to life. Instead of spending billions building branches, OPay focused on creating an army of everyday Nigerians as agents. These agents had small kiosks, shops, or even just a table and umbrella. With a POS machine, they could instantly help customers deposit, withdraw, and send money right in their own neighborhood. Even people in villages and small towns had access to banking through an OPay agent. In short, OPay became the bank next door. Now let's be honest, Nigerians love freebies, discounts, and anything that feels like a wolf. OPay knew this and used it as their secret weapon. When OPay launched its financial services, they offered cashback on transactions such that when you send money, buy airtime or pay bills, you get a small part of your money back. Zero bank charges on transfers, which was something that cost 50 Naira to 100 Naira in other banks. This was like saying, why use your bank app when OPay is faster, easier, and saves you money? Of course, Nigerians jumped in. University students, traders, transport workers, even corporate workers. Everyone wanted to enjoy the freebies. And by the time people got used to OPay's system, switching back to banks felt painful. There was also one powerful tool OPay made that was quite lethal, which was reliability. Their app was fast. Transactions that usually failed on banks went through smoothly on OPay. Barely any traditional bank in Nigeria could beat their chest and say that they could achieve that. And slowly, people started trusting OPay, not just as a payment app, but as a bank alternative. Now let's pause for a second, because from the way we've been talking, it must sound like OPay's journey was smooth, straight, and perfect. But that's far from the truth. OPay's rise in Nigeria was filled with huge setbacks, and even moments where the whole dream almost crashed, like government and regulations battle. If you know Nigeria well, then you know one thing. Once you touch money, the government will also touch you. Funny but not funny scenario. OPay felt this heat very early. In 2020, the Central Bank of Nigeria began to worry about fintech companies like OPay, especially since OPay was Chinese founded. There was growing fear that too much foreign control was entering Nigerians' financial system. OPay and others were suddenly restricted from offering some of their services like handling payments for ride-hailing and food delivery. Think about that for a second. You've just built ORide, OFood and OBus, invested millions of dollars, only for the regulators to come in and say, sorry, you can't do that anymore. It was a heavy blow. But OPay didn't quit. Instead, they doubled down on what they knew Nigerians needed most: financial services. They pulled back from risky experiments and focused on being the everyday money app. That decision later turned out to be one of their smartest moves. Then there was failed diversification, the super app dream that got ruined. When OPay first came in, they wanted to be everywhere in your life, from how you moved, to how you ate, to how you paid. ORide for motorbike rides, OFood for cheap meals, OBus for bus bookings, even OWealth for savings. It was exciting. At least for a while, people loved it. ORide especially was exploding in Lagos, with thousands of riders zooming around in OPay's bright helmets. But reality soon humbled them. In early 2020, the Lagos state government banned commercial motorcycles on major roads. Overnight, ORide was dead. Without ORide, the super app idea started crumbling. OFood and OBus couldn't compete with existing giants, and those businesses quickly shut down. It was painful, but it forced OPay to cut down distraction and focus on just one problem. Despite OPay coming with lots of goodies and awoof, they still experience the cold shoulders when they launched and still experience it till date. The thing is, Nigerians have this deep fear of scams, which really isn't their fault. Remember, many Nigerians have lost money in fake investment apps, Ponzi schemes, or shady foreign companies. So when OPay arrived, people were really skeptical. Convincing people wasn't easy, and some refused to download the app. Others will test it with 100 Naira or 500 Naira before daring to trust it with more. OPay's answers was incentives and reliability. They gave cashback, free transfers, and discounts to make the risk feel smaller. And most importantly, they made sure their app and POS actually worked, even when traditional banks were failing. Slowly, Nigerians began to believe that OPay were actually reliable. That reliability became the foundations of OPay's growth. Finally, we can't forget the battle OPay fought on all sides. Traditional banks quickly noticed that OPay was eating into their customer base. Every free transfer on OPay was money the banks weren't making. So banks fought back, sometimes by slowing down fintech transfers. At the same time, other fintechs also joined the war. PalmPay arrived with aggressive cashback offers. Kuda called itself the bank of the free. Fair Money started giving out loans instantly. Each competitor was fighting for the same Nigerian users. But OPay had two things many didn't: a massive street presence with their green POS agents, deep funding from global investors. This gave them the staying power to outlast many rivals, even in the brutal fintech war. OPay's journey wasn't smooth at all. Yet, despite all of this, OPay survived. And not just survived, they thrived. They learned to adapt, they cut out what wasn't working, and they focused on the one thing Nigerians needed most: fast, reliable, accessible money. That ability to take punches and keep moving is what transformed OPay from just another startup into one of the most powerful fintech companies in Africa today. And when the Naira shortage crisis hit in 2023, OPay wasn't just ready, it was perfectly positioned to step in. In 2023, Nigeria witnessed one of the biggest money crises in its history. The government redesigned the Naira and suddenly banned old notes, just 15 days before the presidential elections. Almost overnight, cash disappeared. ATMs were empty, banks were crowded with angry customers, markets slowed down. But in the middle of this chaos, OPay saw its biggest breakthrough. While people struggled with banks, OPay green POS agents were everywhere, in villages, on street corners, in markets. People could deposit, withdraw, or send money without stepping into a bank. Not only was OPay's POS doing wonders, the app also became a lifeline. With just a few taps, Nigerians paid for food, transport, and bills directly from their phone. In those weeks of cash scarcity, Nigerians who never trusted digital money before had no choice but to try it. And when they did, they found OPay fast, simple, and reliable. That crisis turned into OPay's rocket. Millions of new users joined within weeks. Shops that once collected only cash started saying, "Do you have OPay?" Conductors, traders, even food sellers accepted transfers. What was once just another fintech became the everyday bank for ordinary Nigerians. By the end of 2023, OPay was no longer the underdog. The Naira shortage, which frustrated the nations, became the breakthrough that cemented OPay as Nigeria's go-to money app. If you want unfiltered success and failure stories just like this one, then you should like, subscribe, and share.